Hello and welcome to News Plus and Viewer Television. My name is Joy Malik. Many thanks for joining us. Now, President Muhammadu Buhari says all campaign promises he made to Nigerians in 2015 has been fulfilled. The president revealed this while speaking at the 7th convocation of the Federal University Oye-Ekiti, Ekiti State. Buhari, represented by the Minister of State for Education, Goodluck Nana, disclosed this when he delivered in the areas of economy, education, security, anti-corruption, and other areas. He said his campaign vows centered on enriching the economy, enhancing security, and the fight against corruption. Buhari also added that his administration has rebuilt the education sector through increased funding for human capital and infrastructure expansion. Now, moving over to Naira scarcity, the Central Bank of Nigeria says the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company (PLC) has enough capacity and materials to produce the required quantity of the new Naira notes, adding that at no time did its governor, Godwin Emefiele, say anything to the contrary during his presentation to the National Council of State. The Apex Bank, while assuring Nigerians that it would increase circulation of the new notes to all parts of the country, debunked the rumor that it planned to close down some money deposit banks in some regions of the country. The CBN, in a statement signed by its Corporate Communications Director, Osita, said its attention had been drawn to a report misquoting its governor as attributes in the current challenge in the distribution of the newly redesigned Naira banknote to a shortage of printing materials at the Nigerian Security Printing and Minting Company (PLC). Now, Jamaica has disclosed plans to source for vehicles from innocent vehicles manufacturing in Nigeria. This plan was revealed by Jamaican High Commissioner to Nigeria, Esmond, during a facility tour of IVM plants in Newi, Anambra State. He referred to the IBM factory as top class, promising to encourage Jamaican citizens to come and see for themselves. In his response, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, Geoffrey Oyema, called for strict enforcement of this presidential executive order mandating government officials to buy and use Nigerian-made cars. Now let's look at climate change and how President Muhammadu Buhari approved the work plan for the National Council on Climate Change. The President conveyed his approval at the inaugural meeting of the Council chaired by him, with Vice President Yemi Osinbajo as Vice Chairman and the Director General of NCCC, Dr. Salisu Dahiru, as Secretary, among other members. The President also approved the deployment of staff from key ministries, departments and agencies to the Council to ensure its effective take-off. Responding to a number of requests by the Director General of the Council on ensuring a smooth take-off and operationalization of the Council, President Buhari approved the proposed institutional arrangement for the Council as presented. Now, over 100 anti-corruption civil society organizations and thousands of their supporters have staged a protest in Lagos in continuation of the call for the removal of the chairman of the Economic and Financial Crimes Commission, Abdulrasheed Bawa, over alleged continued disobedience of anti-court orders. Now, leaders of the anti-corruption groups who began what they described as a week-long protest against him of the AFCC, disobedience of court orders and infringement on human rights of Nigerians, said many CSOs were invited to join the struggle after the maiden press conference held in Lagos State. Transparency and Accountability Group spokesperson Ayodeji Ologun, who spoke on behalf of the anti-corruption, said the coalition of anti-corruption organizations could not watch the country's legal system being bastardized by the selfish interests of a few. And on 2023 UTME, the Joint Admission and Matriculation Board says over 1.6 million tertiary institutions admission seekers have so far registered to sit for the 2023 Unified Tertiary Matriculation Examination UTME. The Registrar of JAMB, Ishak Olao Yede, disclosed this in Abuja during a monitoring tour of some CBT centers. He, during the tour, visited CBT centers located at Total Child International School, Duse, JAM Abuja Zona Office, Life Camp, Global Distance Learning Institute, and SASCON International College, Abuja. He said that the board would not extend deadline for the 2023 Unified UTME registration while warning centers against extortion of candidates. The registrar urged candidates to report cases of extortion, saying that there was a code for candidates to reach the board when they come across any case of extortion, while promising there would be a reward for such acts. Now, market women in the Federal Capital Territory have decried low patronage, attributing it to poor circulation of the new Naira note. Now, the women told newsmen in Abuja that the situation had affected their trade adversely. It was gathered that most of the women had resorted to collecting transfers to enable them make sales, especially those selling perishable items. The Naira scarcity has made some of the market women who did not have bank accounts open worrying. Well, you're still watching News Plus on Viewer Television. Let's go on a quick break, and when we return, News Plus continues, so stay tuned.
Hi, my name is Ikia Marton. Being an anchor has been a tremendous experience, from editing the news to reading the news. As an anchor, you have to be objective and impartial. Sometimes you have to put on a very indifferent look, a stoic character, such that you do not display your emotions. But then the stories that we tell, from politics to the economy to insecurity to education, also affect us. And as journalists, we're also affected by stories. From the teleprompter to the lights to the camera to the action to the reading of the news, it's all a synchronization of various activities at the same time. Sometimes you have to listen to feedback, sometimes you have to stop, sometimes you have to continue. Sometimes, you know, there are technical hitches that we can never overlook, but then you have to come up with a strategy, you have to come up with your professionalism to ensure that the audience do not even know what is happening behind the scenes, and then you just have to carry on.
Fragrance, the new luxury fragrance for men and women.
Welcome back. If you're just joining us, this is News Plus on Viewer Television. Now, the Independent National Electoral Commission has commenced the sensitization of virtually impaired persons on the use of ballot guides during the election. Speaking in an interactive session with virtually impaired PWDs, Zoli Shegun, INEC President Electoral Commissioner in Lagos State, said the sensitization program is to ensure an inclusive election. He, represented by Gabriel Akambi, our next head of Department, Election and Party Monitoring, said the rights of PWDs will be protected as listed and the recently approved Discrimination Against Persons with Disabilities Prohibition Act 2018. He said blind voters would be allowed to select who will accompany them to the polling areas as stated in Section 54 of the 2022 Electoral Act. Now, the Lagos State Police Command has commenced investigations into the attacks on Labour Party supporters. The citizens were heading to Peter Obi's rally at the Tafawa Balewa Square in Onikan when they were attacked. At least 4 persons were injured by the hoodlums who ambushed them and others with clubs and machetes. Police Public Relations Benjamin Hayden said the Criminal Investigation Department has taken over the probe. The police condemned the attack and advised political leaders to prevail on their followers to be law-abiding and shun violence. Now, Omnian Institute for Contextual Leadership has organized a one-day interfaith and inter-party workshop towards eradicating violence before, during and after 2023 general elections in Nigeria. Now, the workshop titled Electoral Integrity and Strengthening Democracy drew participants across party and religious lines in Gombe State to chart a course for a more peaceful general election after the 2023 general election. Our correspondent Christopher Luca was there and now completes the rest of the story.
With whole communities displaced, traumatized, and aiding the country closer to the brink of disintegration. In order to maintain the fabric of peace and quiet that communities enjoy, Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership organized this workshop to underscore the role of interfaith peacemaker teams in driving the message of peaceful coexistence before, during, and after elections.
When we fight because of election, after election, what next? So we want to have a situation where our country, our societies, our communities coexist peacefully with each other so that we can gain the dividends of democracy.
2 weeks to Nigeria's general polls. These participants, drawn across political and religious lines, are expected to amplify and democratize what they have learned in their communities.
For me, this is ultimate because if we live in peace, everything else will work. But if there's no peace, nothing else will work.
Seriously, this workshop is one of the best workshops so far. At least to encourage my people. When I go back, at least I want to highlight all my people, sit with my youths, my women. Already we have started doing this.
Peace is just like charity. It starts at home. So we mobilize people and tell them to be peaceful in their homes, in their communities, and at large in every area they come from. We need peace all over the world.
The Independent National Electoral Commission, INEC, and National Orientation Agency, NOAA, say Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership deserves commendation for their contribution towards the peaceful conduct of 2023 elections in Nigeria.
I believe Omnia is doing a good job in trying to make sure that interfaith bodies come together and make sure that there's peace coexistence during the election, even after the election. And I think it's a very good innovation. I believe that it will go a long way if the people that have been trained here would do the good job and cascade it down to the communities that in the villages to help them understand that violence does not breed anything positive.
It's a very good thing for Omnia to do that because here we have traditional leaders, we have women group, we have religious leaders, we have the youth organizations and so on and so forth. So as I've said earlier, I told them what you will learn here is not for yourself alone, but it's for you to go down and step it down to the grassroots.
As a front runner in the promotion of peaceful coexistence, Omnia Institute for Contextual Leadership hopes that opinion leaders, party faithful, pastors, imams, and other elder statesmen at the workshop will continue to preach tolerance and peaceful coexistence for Nigeria to have peaceful elections in 2023 and beyond. Christopher Luka, Viewer Television News, Gombe.
Now let's take it to Yobe State and how political supporters of Senate President Ahmed Lawan attacked the governor of Yobe State, Mai Malabuni, by throwing stones and other objects at him. Now this happened in an event organized to honor the verdict of the Supreme Court declaring Lawan the valid senatorial candidate of the ruling All Progressive Congress for Yobe North and the National Assembly election. Now it was gathered that trouble began when the governor stood up to deliver his speech. As Buni began his speech, the angry loyalists began to chant slogans of rejections and in quotes, "We don't want you." Now the governor was bold because he backed Lawan's opponent, Bashir Machina, who was the APC candidate onto the Supreme Court's ruling. The hecklers subsequently started throwing objects at him and other guests at the podium, forcing the rally to a sudden end while he was whisked away by security operatives. Now let's take you to Taraba State and how the Taraba State All Progressive Congress caucus and the National Assembly has rejected the removal of the state chairman of the party, Ibrahim Al-Sudi. While addressing the media at the press conference in Abuja, the chairman of the caucus and senatorial candidate for the Taraba Central, Honorable Danjuma Shidi, says the impeachment was orchestrated by sub-7 section of the State Executive Committee, which was not properly constituted. He added that the decision to impeach the state chairman was done without forming a quorum or consultation by the state caucus created by Article 12.9 of the APC Constitution, while also describing the impeachment as a calculated attempt to sabotage the party's effort at winning the 2023 general elections in the state at all levels. The caucus also accused some members for anti-party activities, as some of them have been caught openly supporting the PDP in the states.
As the ruling political party at the national level and governing majority of states in Nigeria, the party cannot afford to appear like a huge joke by allowing some skilled and self-serving people to propose to have removed the party chairman in a way and manner at variance with the party constitution.
So for somebody to come out and say that Sudi is backing one candidate is just a mere allegation, because Ed Sudi was not a delegate, he was not a returning officer. The returning officers were sent from the national headquarters of the party.
Moving about to insecurity, UNICEF says 1.9 million children, including youths affected by insurgency, lack access to basic education across the Northeast. Now, this was disclosed during a media dialogue with education correspondents on its achievements in the Borno, Adamawa, and Yobe states. UNICEF said, although with partnership of organizations and the federal government, over 18,000 teachers were trained to ensure quality education, but more interventions are needed to address learning crises and challenges of out of school and displaced children. It added that almost half of schools across the base states need rehabilitation and furniture, stressing that only 29% schools have teachers with minimum qualification, which demands more qualified and trained teachers.
Only 47% of schools in Borno have furniture, with lower proportions in Yobe and Adamawa states. Only 30% of schools in Adamawa have learning supplies for children, with lower proportions again in Borno and Yobe. It is therefore little wonder that according to the multiple indicator cluster surveys in 2021, that less than half of the children complete their primary school in northeastern Nigeria. About 1.9 million boys and girls and youth affected by the conflict are without access to basic quality education in the region, This is the first training of its kind to have this many teachers being trained. It's a start. Is it enough? I'm not so sure. And in fact, I would blatantly say, no, it's not enough, but it is a fantastic start. And it is something that the government of Nigeria is aware of.
Well, you're still watching News Plus and Viewer Television. Let's quickly go on a quick break, and when we return, News Plus continues. So stay tuned. You are still watching News Plus and Viewer Television. Now, the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi State, has successfully carried out its forced spinal surgery on a 63-year-old man who has not been able to walk or move some parts of his body for some years. Dr. Olabisi, a consultant who led the operation, said the success of the operation is not unconnected to the enabling environment given by the management of the hospital, especially in terms of providing the needed equipment, which is up to date. Now, about the state correspondent, How Hassan tells us more.
This is the modular theatre of the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital in Bauchi, which is fully equipped with the latest equipment needed to carry out the most complicated surgical operations, including spinal surgery.
Okay, here we are in modular theatre, and we are operating on Alhaji Sani Ibrahim, a 63-year-old man who presented with inability to use both upper limbs and lower limbs, and he has not been working for the past 1 year. And from all our investigation, we discovered that he has what we call cervical degenerative disease, and this morning we'll be operating on him, the first of its kind in HBUTH. And what we'll be doing is that we'll be doing corpectomy of C4, and we'll be doing discectomy of C71.
The operation, which took the combined effort of 2 neurosurgeons, a consultant anesthetics and their team, including some nurses, took more than 5 hours to accomplish. The operation was, however, successfully done, as put forward by Dr. Olabisi Ogulai.
The surgery was a successful one, and it's first of its kind in the history of our teaching hospital, Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi. And we did it, and it was a successful one. And it gladdens our heart that this has been possible.
Alhaji Sani Ibrahim is a patient who has not been able to move some parts of his body for some time, but having undergone this operation, now has a different story to tell.
I cannot raise my hand, leg, I can raise them now, everything. I can even walk around.
Oh my God!
Initially, I cannot do this. I don't do it like that. You see, in fact, I thank God, I thank to the teachers, more especially my doctor, Dr. Ogulai.
Yeah. With this development at the Abubakar Tafawa Balewa University Teaching Hospital, Bauchi, does that change the people's narrative about going to other states and abroad to seek medical solutions?
This is a good news to them. Before, they have to go to Kano, some have to go to Abuja, some have to go to Lagos, even outside the country, just because we don't have all the necessary things to offer them these services. But now, when you are here, once you come, we can offer you these services. And apart from offering you these services, we offer it at a subsidized rate, which is easier for all our teeming populations because they can get it at affordable prices. Not the prices they will get it at Kano or in Abuja or outside the country. And also, for the rest of the country, anywhere they can also come over here because they are sure that they will get the best services at affordable prices.
Awul Hassan, URTV News, Bauchi.
Well, many thanks for watching. I am Joy Malik. Please stay tuned and enjoy the rest of our programs. Bye for now.